Today's episode is brought to you by the book Conversations, How to Manage Your Business Relationships One Conversation at a Time by yours truly, Ivan Farber. I'm also the host of this podcast, and today is an interesting conversation. It's not a business conversation per se. It's about my health journey. However, when you see the level of attention to detail and strategies that I put into my health journey, I learned them from my business journey, from the 10,000 conversations that I worked on to make the 10 lessons in the book Conversations. When did this journey start? It started on October 16, 2001. Actually, that's a typo. It started on October 16, 2021. I wasn't as healthy in 2001. So what happened on October 16th? I was insulted by a friend. So I've been pretty healthy. I exercised a lot, as I'll show you later. But I was still 30% body fat, even though I was exercising, riding a bike. My friend Pete said, and I wasn't weighing myself. And I said, I'm not weighing myself. And he goes, you probably should weigh yourself. And I said, nah, if I weigh myself, I feel fat if I'm a couple pounds more, and I feel thin if I'm a couple pounds less. And it's like looking at your portfolio every day. If you're a couple dollars higher, a couple dollars, it doesn't make a difference. And he goes, you probably weigh over 200 pounds. And I said, there is no way I weigh over 200 pounds. So that day I got home, I stepped on the scale. I weighed 190 pounds. Now my quote unquote fighting weight, although I'm not a fighter, but my wrestling weight in high school was like 155, pushing it, maybe it was like 160. But I didn't like being 190. And it just got me started. So what happened next? So here's now my weight since then. So I was 190. Then the next year, December 31st, 179.75. You see how precise I am? Next year, 166, 155. So peak to trough there, I think I dropped like 35 pounds. I think at the lowest, I was like 152. And then I've been gaining weight. I'm going to talk about that as well. Minutes of exercise over the last 5-6 years. I was doing about 10,000 minutes of exercise for a while. Last year, I exercised 30,000 minutes. That's 502 hours. I really didn't exercise consistently until 2006. I still have 30% body fat here. Oh, wait, there's a super chat coming in. Huge accomplishment, incredible precision and measurement. Quote, that which is not measured is not improved. So, a concept you embody so well. Yes, I do that both in my conversations, in my business. The fact that I know that last year I had 1,099 conversations and that I talked to my clients on average 10.8 times in the year, like that kind of precision. Yeah, that's the Ivan Farber way. But anyway, this just goes to the point that you can do a lot of cardio and not actually lose weight. And this is what would happen to me. I'd go out for like a 30-mile bike ride and then I'd be ravenous. And I would justify stuffing my face. All right, here's the fat weight. And this is really compelling. I'm estimating that I had 57 pounds of fat. I'm estimating it based on what I now know is my fat-free mass. So 57, 48, 32, 21, and now 17 pounds of fat weight. I mean, going from 57 pounds of fat weight to 17. That's something I'm pretty proud of, especially because I'm gaining weight now. But what I'm gaining is fat-free mass. And last year I gained 5.5 pounds of fat-free mass. I mean, I suppose technically I gained 0.4 of a pound of fat, but my fat-free mass went up 5 pounds, and my body fat percentage went down. So now I'm at a spot in my health journey. I want to stock up fat-free mass for my 70s and 80s. In your 40s, you start losing fat-free mass. My goal right now, unofficially, is 10% body fat, but I want to gain weight. So it's kind of like maybe I weigh like 167 and I have 16.7 pounds of body fat. Do I need to do this? No, but I'm relentlessly goal-oriented. All right, here's some pictures. So 2017, and I didn't feel like a fat person. And I wasn't that fat, but there's fat there. I mean, my face, my neck, like I had a round face. 2020, I'm sitting with my friend here, friend Jeff. He's not in the picture, but not because I'm trying to hide his identity. I'm big here. I have less shirt size now. I didn't feel fat, but I look at that and like, look at this round face and pudge. 2021, I'm 180 pounds at this point. And, there's more meat on the bones. Here I am with Grandma Rose and my friend Jeff, actually, just his hands were visible in the picture before. And then 2022, I'm 166 pounds. There's still plenty of me, but less. You can kind of see less. Here's 2023, 155 pounds. It's much less of me. 2024, there's 157 pounds, 40 pounds of fat-free mass. And then the end of 2025, 162 pounds, 145 pounds. And look, like you could see the muscle now too, right? Like you can start to see this journey. Am I done? No, I'm not done. Do I move the goalposts and constantly, am I relentlessly goal oriented and I keep moving the goalposts? Yes. That's part of why I become so good. Now there's a couple of super chats. Super chat from Atlanta. This is an impressive transformation! Exclamation point, incredible! Exclamation point. Thank you, Atlanta. And then super chat from Houston. How do you keep yourself motivated to track the inputs, the outputs, and the outcomes? Just what I've been talking about. I'm a tracker. So when I graduated college in 1994, I tracked my finances. I've tracked everything I've spent since 1994, everything I've made. And I just realized is that which you do not measure, you cannot influence. I know that every conversation I go into has to have the clear rules for conversations. So I'm always evaluating. All right. In terms of the how, I'm now going to take you into 25 strategies for losing weight and being healthy. One of the first things is I had a podcast guest named Shad Helmstetter. Dr. Helmstetter wrote a book called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. What we say to ourselves is fundamental. So he taught me about positive scripting. And every day I listen to a number of scripts. And there's an eating script. And the eating script has lines in it like mealtime is achievement time. And since I'm so achievement oriented, when I sit down to eat, it's an achievement activity. Less on your fork means less on your waist. Less on your plate means less on your waist. So I can't recommend the book enough, called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. All right, so the first thing you do is affirmations. Then you got to find your motivation. Mine was proving Pete wrong. Like he was like, you're fat. I'm like, I'm not fat. But I was 57 pounds of fat. And then motivation wise, my rallying cry came, I worked too hard for this. I can't go back. I think I dropped 6 inches on my waistline. The pants would just drop. Yeah, I have a belt and I, suture the belt to keep my pants up, but they would just drop. And so, but now it's like, I can't go back. I've worked too hard. You do 30,000 minutes of exercise. I can't go back. I still have to watch what I eat. All right. So you grow your discipline muscles. This is actually true. By the way, you can tell that I'm a voracious learner. And so I've incorporated learning my entire life. And so all of this comes from something. There is a part of your brain, and this is from Huberman Lab, great podcast, that actually gets developed. Like you can grow your discipline muscles. And I am one of the most disciplined people that I know. I probably am the most disciplined person I know. It is my superpower. Discipline, consistency, tracking. That's how I did this. Next, I became a put-your-fork-downatarian. What does that mean? Every bite when I eat, when mealtime is achievement time, every bite, I put my fork down between every bite. And what that does is it slows me down and there's no shoveling. Like everybody shovels and it's just not good for you. You don't chew enough. You eat more than you should. So I put my fork down. And then snacking is a problem. I used to have a snack shelf. When it's not a mealtime, you stay away from food. This is very hard for me. I try not to eat past being full, but it's really hard. It's really hard. This is, your whole life you eat a certain way, and I like to feel full. I chew gum frequently. I buy gum in bulk packs, like you know how like at the grocery store you have cardboard around like multi packs. I buy sugar-free gum by the pack by the pound. I stopped drinking calories. I don't drink fruit juice. I don't drink caloric soda. They're so full of sugar. One thing I learned from one of the books I read is whether you eat fat or sugar, it's stored as fat. And just in general, sugar is bad for you. I've actually given up ketchup because ketchup has a lot of added sugar. I love ketchup, but I can I can do without it. I have hot sauce. It's because it doesn't have sugar. I recommend drinking a lot of water. I'm not great at that. I do it really well when I'm exercising. Huberman has a really good podcast about the time that you should drink water. It's mostly the first 10 hours of your day after waking. Strategy number 10, increase your exercise minutes. I mean, you've got to move. But wait, there's 15 more. Weigh yourself every day. But know that the only meaningful comparison is a longer term average. I use a 28-day trailing average, which means you have to track it on a spreadsheet. So I'm going to flash up here on the screen my spreadsheet. All right. So you have the daily, and so let's see, I didn't add today yet, but yesterday I weighed 160. My rolling 28 was 162.57. I actually dropped 10 basis points on the 10-day trailing average. Body fat percentage 10.74, and rolling fat percentage, because again I'm using rolling, fat weight 17.2, fat-free mass. And then so I know month to date, 16 days into the year, I have gained 16 basis points. For those of you who are not in financial industry, basis points are 1 basis point is 0.01%. My body fat is down 7 basis points this month, fat weight down 10 basis points. So I even know per day this month, I've gained 1.65 basis points in fat-free mass and 1.01 change in weight because I've gained weight a little bit. And then, and I know that's kind of what I've been doing because the trailing 12 months, I'm gaining 1.5 basis points a day. And then since I started lifting weights about 18 months ago, I've gained 1.5 basis points a day. In terms of being impressed with my tracking, it's pretty darn impressive. Now, I don't count calories now, but there is a portion of my journey where I downloaded MyFitnessPal and I tracked calories. You learn about what an appropriate serving size is, what kind of calories things have, what kind of macronutrients and micronutrients. So macronutrients are protein, fats, carbs. Micronutrients are vitamins. Based on what I learned later, then I could really make very different food choices. Strategy number 14, you have to wait until you experience hunger to eat. Very important. And then yes, eat more meat, protein, good fats, and vegetables. You can have fruits, but they're caloric, but there's no added sugar to fruit. There's just sugar. Next 5 strategies. I adopted time-restricted eating, also known as intermittent fasting, but I really prefer to talk about it as time-restricted eating. I seek to eat all my meals within 8 to 10 hours because then what you allow your body to do is have 14 to 16 hours of fasting. Everybody fasts every night, unless the people eat in their sleep. Why do you want to extend the daily fast? Because when you eat, you have an insulin response. Insulin takes sugars and fats in your bloodstreams and stores them in your fat cells. It doesn't, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't distinguish between fats and sugars. Oh, by the way, I have a super chat. this listener said, as a shoveler and a snacker, I feel very seen and very convicted. So hopefully, and that super chat came from Los Angeles. Hopefully, shoveler in Los Angeles, you will start to put your fork down. And as far as I know, I'm the only put your fork downatarian. But for all of you listening, watching, it makes a difference. It really slows you down. All right, so back to insulin response. When there's insulin, it's storing fat. When you have insulin resistance, it means that you have so much sugar in your bloodstream that your body can't even store it anywhere. That's also on track to diabetes. So in order for your body to burn fat, your insulin has to die down. You can't burn fat when there's insulin signaling your body to store fat. It's a one-way street. So when you extend the fast, you're extending the part of your day that you burn fat. Then the final on this series of 5 strategies is you have to do resistance training in addition to cardio. I used to think, oh, I can just eat more if I have more muscle. Well, every extra pound of muscle, they say, they don't know exactly, but it's an extra 100 calories a day. So it's not like a panacea. But if I gain about 10 pounds of muscle, that's about like 1,000 calories a day. And here's what's also something I learned. As I started losing weight, my basal metabolic rate went down. So when I weighed 190, I could eat like 2,800 calories and maintain. When I weighed 155, I could only eat like 1,800 calories, because when you're fat, you are carrying around a lot of weight. So you burn more calories when you're fat. So that's a tricky part. And that's why people sometimes can't keep the weight off. All right, 5 last strategies. Number 1, avoid foods, and I've talked about this a little bit already. Avoid foods with a lot of ingredients on their labels and have barcodes and are shelf stable and have seed oils and have added sugar. And this is really hard because, like at work, we have free snacks and there are some bananas and apples and oranges someday, but mostly it's barcodes. So, but then there's refrigerated food. We have one of those self-service stores, and there's not much I can get there either, but there are cheese sticks surrounded by meat. By the way, I hardly eat bread anymore. I try to avoid refined carbs like white bread because sugar and refined carbs are stored as fat. So eating low fat is not helpful because fat doesn't mean it's low sugar. So what all of those like boxed up meals and things in wrappers, the food scientists have figured out a way for you to, salty, crunchy, sugary, it's all going to get stored as fat. No matter how much you exercise, if you eat that stuff, it doesn't build up the fat-free mass. It doesn't build muscle. It just gets stored in your fat cells. Use a scale that measures body fat. Like that's reality. And then the last 2 strategies, change your paradigm to increasing fat-free mass versus just reducing your weight, because you're going to need the fat-free mass when you're a senior citizen. Now, many of you listening to this are not close to being a senior citizen. Even in your late 30s and 40s, you start to lose a pound of muscle a year. I have a super chat, good call out on overly processed foods. It's hard to stay mindful, but it's so important. Here is the bibliography. My concluding remarks, I have a super chat from New York, New York. I like the way you frame this as a journey, as an investment in your future. It is 100%, which brings me back to what this podcast is normally, which is a business podcast. So in closing, this has been my journey, not just my weight loss journey, my health journey, but also my career journey of just constantly learning. If anybody's interested, if you've listened this far in the podcast, I will send you this list if you want it. I also have a list of 30 conversation books. Of course, my book and the sponsor of this podcast, Conversations, How to Manage Your Business Relationships, One Conversation at a Time. It's available on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. You can reach me, Ivan at conversations.biz. Lastly, I want to thank you for being a part of this conversation about really what is the most important conversation of our lives.